She laughed. That's what I can't shake. Not the betrayal, not the silence after, not even what her friend told me later. Just the laugh. It wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel on the surface. It was soft, almost polite, like she was stifling something. I had just said, I don't know what I did wrong. And she looked me straight in the eyes and said, every day with you feels like a mistake I was too tired to fix. Then came the laugh. Quiet. Final. The sound of someone who had emotionally checked out months ago. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I just took off the ring, that stupid little thing I once borrowed money to buy, and dropped it between us on the floor. Not on the table. On the damn floor. I said, then let this be the last mistake. She didn't pick it up. She didn't say wait. She just turned around and walked into the kitchen. That was it. I packed a single bag that night. Not because I wanted to be dramatic, but because I genuinely didn't know where I was going, or how long I'd be gone, or what part of me I was leaving behind. I slept in my car for 2 days. I couldn't bring myself to call anyone. I couldn't explain it. I just kept staring at that empty ring mark on my finger like it was some kind of joke tattoo. But on day 3, and I swear this part sounds made up, her friend showed up at the gas station where I'd parked. Out of nowhere. No message. No warning. She knocked on my window like it was normal. Like we weren't just two awkward satellites that used to orbit around the same woman. I rolled it down, and she said, you need to know what she's been saying about you, and what she's been doing. At first, I thought she was just trying to comfort me, maybe clear her conscience. But then she pulled out her phone. Photos, screenshots, voice recordings. It was worse than I imagined. Not just because my wife had cheated, but because it had layers. Because I was part of some long-running performance I never auditioned for. Because the person I loved had never existed. Not really. And her friend? She wasn't innocent either. I didn't know what to expect when Sylvie, my wife's best friend, showed up at that gas station. We barely spoke in the 4 years I was married. But now here she was, wearing sunglasses at dusk, standing next to my car like it was an intervention. She didn't even ask if I wanted to see the proof. She just opened her phone and tapped a video. What I saw made me feel like I'd swallowed glass. It was my wife, sitting at our kitchen counter, the same one I built from scratch, laughing with a man I'd never seen before. She was wearing my hoodie, the one she said smelled like home. She poured him wine, looked into the camera like it was some kind of reality show, and said, he still thinks I'm working late. The guy smirked and kissed her. Right there, in our house. I blinked at Sylvie. She looked away, almost ashamed. She's been recording stuff? For months, Sylvie said quietly. They have this whole, I don't know, fantasy about replacing you, making it look like you just gave up so she could be the brave one who moved on. I felt dizzy, like the ground had moved. Not only was my wife cheating, she was documenting it, curating it, rewriting the narrative so I would be the villain in her friend group, the apathetic husband who didn't fight for her. But why are you showing me this? I asked. Aren't you her friend? Sylvie bit her lip. Then she said something that threw me off completely. Because she did the same thing to me. Different guy, different lie, but same manipulation. I stayed quiet the first time. I'm not doing it again. Apparently, this wasn't her first betrayal, just the first one that got caught. And Sylvie, for once, wasn't going to help her cover it up. Then came the final blow. She's not just replacing you emotionally. She's preparing legally. She's been moving money, canceling shared accounts, getting advice on how to make you look unstable if things go to court. My stomach dropped. I wasn't just being erased. I was being framed for the erasure. And I hadn't even fought back. I walked away when she wanted me to. I left the house. The marriage. My voice. Sylvie handed me a flash drive. It's all on here. Do what you want. But you should act fast. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my car, parked in front of an abandoned bookstore, watching every file on that drive. Photos, audio, a script she wrote for a statement about our divorce, a fake journal entry where she claimed I was emotionally abusive, a staged selfie with makeup smudged to look like she had cried. She planned everything, and I'd left without asking questions. The flash drive sat in my glove compartment for days after that night, but its contents didn't leave my mind for a second. I replayed everything over and over. Her voice, her smug little rehearsals, her fake tears. She wasn't just planning to replace me. She wanted to control the story after I was gone. That's what haunted me the most. She wasn't hurt. She wasn't confused. She was strategic. She wanted to burn the bridge, then tell everyone I jumped. Sylvie had warned me that my wife, Fiona, was preparing to paint me as unstable. "She's hoping you'll explode," she had said. "She's baiting you. So when you finally lose it, she gets to say, 'See, this is why I had to leave.'" And looking back, everything made sense. The way she poked at me during arguments. How she'd provoke me in front of others, then act wounded. She wasn't fighting. She was collecting footage. And I was playing my part without even realizing it. I wanted revenge. But not the kind she could twist. I wanted truth. Unfiltered, undeniable truth. So, I started being methodical. I dug through our shared cloud accounts, ones she thought I had forgotten about. And I found gold. Screenshots of her talking to a coworker named Miles. Not just flirting, planning. He was the man from the video. They were exchanging tips on how to manipulate the narrative if I tried to push back legally. She said I was too soft to fight, and that her backup plan was to leak edited clips of our private conversations. But here's where it got complicated. One of the audio files Sylvie gave me had a familiar voice in the background. I couldn't place it at first. Then I realized it was Fiona's sister. Her own blood. She was helping her script the breakup, coaching her on how to lie to our families. They laughed about how I still folded her laundry, even when she barely touched me anymore. I'd become a prop in my own marriage. The quiet, obedient husband who was useful until he wasn't. But it wasn't just about betrayal anymore. Fiona had recorded me without consent in our own home. And in several of those clips, she made sure to act like I was yelling, reacting, even when I wasn't. She would record herself whispering things like, "Stop yelling," in a trembling voice while I was literally silent. Then send it to her group chat as evidence. It was all fake, performed, and she was good at it. Too good. That's when I realized this wasn't just about cheating. Fiona was building a digital case to destroy my credibility, and no one would believe me if I told them without proof. That flash drive became the most valuable thing I owned. I made 3 copies, stored them in different places. One in Henrik's tool shed, one in a safe deposit box I hadn't touched in years, and one I mailed to a lawyer, just in case. I wasn't going to let her bury me quietly. If she wanted to turn me into the villain of her story, then fine. I'd start writing my own. The moment I realized I wasn't crazy, everything shifted. For weeks I had been questioning my sanity, wondering if I was overreacting, if I was just too sensitive, or if I had somehow misread the woman I loved for 4 years. But no, she was manipulating the narrative, controlling the optics, and rehearsing every scene like she was directing a movie. Only problem? She didn't realize someone else had started recording too. Me. I never planned to. It wasn't out of paranoia. It started with something small, a phone I left in my coat pocket with the voice recorder accidentally running. Fiona had been on a call in the kitchen while I was outside. When I listened back later, I heard her giggling with someone, saying, "He still thinks I'm pulling away because I'm tired." It's so easy. That clip sat in my cloud for weeks before I really understood its value. After Sylvie gave me the flash drive, and I learned what Fiona was planning, I started documenting everything. Every conversation, every text, every quiet moment where she pretended to be the victim. I was capturing it now, frame by frame. And not just that. I went through our shared security system history, the one she forgot auto-archived to my email. I found clips of her sneaking Miles in through the garage, disabling motion alerts on her phone while mine still pinged them. She thought she was outsmarting me. She was careful with the cameras she had access to, but never thought I still had admin control. And she definitely didn't realize our neighbor's doorbell cam picked up their voices as they left together after midnight, laughing like teenagers. But what really set things in motion was the bank account. One afternoon, while parked outside the grocery store, pretending to shop, I opened a savings account I had never told her about. I needed a firewall. I needed options. I started quietly moving funds from our joint checking into it in small amounts, nothing noticeable. I also logged out of every device she could access and changed all recovery emails to one she didn't know existed. Fiona thought I was still sulking, still licking my wounds. She had no idea I was setting the table. Then came the email. It was from Fiona's lawyer. Polite, sterile, cold. He said my wife intended to move forward with separation in a cooperative and respectful way, and that she hoped we could keep things amicable. I read it 3 times before the punchline hit. She wanted alimony. She was preparing to argue that I was emotionally unpredictable and that she had to rebuild her life after enduring instability. The attached statement sounded rehearsed, just like the fake journal entries Sylvie had shown me. So I replied. Briefly, I said I'd be happy to cooperate, but that I'd be forwarding some documents of my own. I attached 2 zipped folders, one labeled Video Timeline and one called Voice Memos, full context. And then I waited. What happened next didn't come from Fiona. It came from Miles, the same guy she was cheating with, the one in the kitchen video, the one who helped her script the narrative. He emailed me, said we needed to talk. In person. I didn't know what to expect. But when we met, what he said shattered everything I thought I knew about their little scheme. I met Miles in the parking lot of a quiet little diner just off the interstate. He looked nothing like the smug homewrecker I'd imagined from the videos. No leather jacket, no cocky smirk, just a pale, nervous guy in a wrinkled button-down, gripping his phone like it might bite him. I didn't shake his hand. I just stared at him and waited. He didn't waste time. She's not who you think she is, he said. I almost laughed. Yeah, no kidding. But then he said something that made my stomach knot. She lied to me too. Told me you were emotionally dangerous, that you'd been arrested before, that I was helping her escape someone toxic. I said nothing. I wanted him to keep talking, and he did. He told me Fiona had been seeing him casually at first, but she kept pressing him to text her specific things, compliments, innuendos, phrases like, you deserve peace, or, you're brave for getting out. She told him it was for therapy, that her therapist wanted her to collect affirmations. Then she started asking him to meet in certain places. Natural light, she'd say. No crowds. He thought she had social anxiety. Turns out she just wanted clean footage. I figured it out when I found my own texts screenshotted in a Dropbox folder, Miles said. She labeled them timeline assets. Who even talks like that? I asked him why he reached out to me. She's done this before, he said, and his voice dropped. I wasn't the first guy. I found another folder. It had pictures of a different man. Same captions. Same fake crying selfies. Same lines. She recycles it all. It's like she gets high off destroying people. He said he confronted her. She told him he was paranoid and blocked him that night. Then, 4 days later, she posted a vague Instagram story about healing from betrayal. That's when he saw my name tagged in a comment under one of her posts. A quote about surviving emotional chaos. Someone wrote, "Stay strong, Fiona. You're doing the right thing leaving Colin." And Miles realized he had been used, just like I had. So he gave me access to everything he found, chat logs, file names, even voice memos she'd sent him where she was crying on cue. He didn't want anything in return. Just stop her, he said, before she wrecks someone else. I walked away from that meeting stunned. Not because Fiona was worse than I thought, but because I was beginning to realize just how many versions of her existed. The loving wife, the broken victim, the confident survivor, the manipulative planner, each one ready to perform, depending on the audience. But now the audience was changing, and the mask was slipping. After meeting Miles, everything locked into place. The pattern, the performance, the rehearsed tears, it wasn't just about me. Fiona wasn't trying to escape a bad marriage. She was chasing a story she could star in. The brave woman who left the weak man. The survivor of a man who crumbled when she grew strong. She wasn't breaking hearts. She was building a brand. But now, I had everything. The flash drive, the cloud logs, her messages, Miles's files, even her own sister's voice whispering cues in the background. It wasn't a story anymore. It was evidence. And I had a choice to make. Expose her publicly and burn everything down. Or dismantle her carefully built lie, piece by piece, without letting her know I'd already won. So I chose subtlety. First, I sent an anonymous tip to her workplace's HR inbox. Nothing dramatic, just a heads up that an employee might be misusing internal resources to surveil someone without consent. I knew they'd recognize the email address she used for her cloud backups. And within a week, she was called in for a quiet review. Nothing major, but enough to rattle her. Make her wonder how someone got access to a private folder labeled Personal Therapy Notes. Then I contacted one of her closest friends, the one she hadn't blocked yet. I sent her a screenshot of Fiona's script notes, lines Fiona was planning to use to claim she feared for her safety. The friend replied with one sentence that made me smirk. Okay, now I feel sick. I didn't go nuclear. I didn't post anything online. I didn't scream for justice. I just started flipping her narrative, quietly. Every time she posted something vague about healing or surviving narcissistic damage, another person in her circle would suddenly go silent. One even deleted a whole comment thread after I sent her a single audio clip of Fiona laughing while rehearsing how to cry during a video call with her mom. Fiona was unraveling, but she didn't know where the thread was being pulled from. I was the ghost in her machine, too quiet to accuse, too strategic to catch. But I still hadn't confronted her directly. Not yet, because the final piece hadn't clicked into place. That is, until I got a message from someone I hadn't expected. My ex. The woman I dated before Fiona. The one Fiona used to obsessively ask about. The one she swore never made her feel insecure. Her message was just 2 lines. She contacted me. Said you were unstable. Said I should be careful. That was it. Fiona wasn't just rewriting our story. She was rewriting mine. And now, it was time to give her a front-row seat to the truth. I waited for the perfect moment. I didn't want a shouting match or some messy confrontation she could twist into another sob story. No, Fiona thrived on chaos. She needed drama to stay in control. So I gave her something she didn't expect at all, silence. And then, a mirror. I invited her to meet for coffee. Neutral ground. Public. Civil. She agreed without hesitation, probably assuming I wanted closure. She even showed up with a soft tone in her voice, wearing the scarf I once bought her on a rainy trip to Montreal, an old prop in her performance. She started with small talk, a pretend smile, carefully chosen words. I never wanted things to get so bitter, she said, tilting her head just enough to seem gentle. Maybe we both made mistakes. I didn't respond. I just slid a plain white envelope across the table. Inside were printed screenshots, her fake texts, her staged photos, her audio transcripts. I didn't say a word while she flipped through them. I watched the blood drain from her face, and still, I said nothing. When she finally looked up, there was no rage, no apology, just panic. What is this? She asked quietly. I told you, I said. Let this be the last day you regret. She tried to recover, but the walls were closing in. I leaned forward and told her what she never expected to hear, that I had already spoken to her workplace, her friends, and even her lawyer, that every piece of fake evidence she'd planted now lived on 3 different secure drives, plus with 2 people she didn't know existed. I'm not here to destroy you, I said. I'm here to stop you from doing it to the next guy. Her mouth opened like she wanted to protest, but I held up my hand. And before you ask why I'm not taking this to court or blasting it online, just know I don't need to. You've already started losing people. Quietly, one by one. I told her I wasn't going to fight dirty, because I didn't have to. I'd already dismantled the lie, and I didn't need to scream to be heard. Then, as she sat there frozen, I placed one last thing on the table. Her ring. Not mine, the one I dropped on the floor that day. Hers. She must have taken it off long before I left, but I'd found it hidden in a drawer behind some old receipts. She probably thought it would be some symbolic gesture, taking it off in secret. So I made it louder. I put it right in front of her. You started this with a performance, I said. Now you're just stuck with the ending. And I walked out. She didn't follow. She didn't say a word. She knew. After that final meeting, I expected to feel angry, vindicated, triumphant even. But what surprised me most was the silence inside my head. For the first time in months, maybe years, there was no looping dialogue, no imaginary arguments, no guilt gnawing at my ribs. Just peace. Fiona didn't message me after. No follow-up email. No last-ditch attempt to spin the narrative. Maybe she finally realized there was no performance left to give. Her supporting cast had exited. Her audience was gone. And me? I was done playing the fool. I moved out of Henrik's farmhouse a few weeks later. I found a quiet place closer to town, nothing fancy, just clean air, warm light, and a lease in my own name. I bought myself a new coffee mug, one with a stupid little quote on it that says, "Healing is loud in small ways." I use it every morning. Sylvie checked in once more, just to say she'd cut ties with Fiona completely. She didn't ask for details. She just said, "I'm proud of you." I didn't realize how much I needed to hear that until she said it. Miles never contacted me again. I don't blame him. I think he wanted to close the book and never look back. I hope he did. I hope we both did. The best part? People started seeing me differently. Not as the pathetic guy who got walked over, but as the man who stood back up, quietly, without screaming or breaking anything. Some even apologized for believing her version of events. A few admitted they felt something was off, but didn't want to get involved. I didn't need apologies. I just appreciated the honesty. But the real win? I started writing again. Not these confession posts. Real writing. Stories that aren't about pain or revenge, but about rebuilding. I even joined a local writing group. Just a few of us weirdos with notebooks and coffee breath. It's small, messy, but it's mine. There's no grand revenge ending here. No courtroom showdown. No viral takedown. Just a quiet truth. She lost the script. And I finally started writing my own. So yeah, she said she regretted every day with me. But I don't regret waking up from the lie. Not one bit.